Welcome to The Conversation as we bring to you different professionals, different Christian professionals who can come and be a motivation to the body of Christ during this time of crisis. We seek to bring persons who, from their experience, they're able to help us as we transition during these trying times. This evening, we have a very special guest who holds the philosophy that everything one does must be done to the highest standard. She's an ardent educator who is determined to grow. She currently serves as a social worker in the Ministry of Education, Jamaica. So she's the educational social worker with the Ministry of Education in Jamaica, Youth and Information, Region 7. She's also certified in life coach, Wired to Win DNA, and a trained parent mentor. And this is where we're going to be touching down. She is the founder of CRL Coaching and Counseling Services. Her mantra is living your best life, overcoming pain, living your purpose with passion. After we hear the song from Sinach, It Is Coming From My Heart, Praise and Thanks unto you, God, we will invite Mrs. Christine Russell Lewin to come and share with us her story. Welcome to you, Mrs. Christine Russell Lewin, to The Conversation with Stephanie Turnbull. This evening, I am so honored to have you as the first guest in this episode of The Conversation. Now, this is a long-going dream when the pandemic hit, that there were many people within our church that they were not coping well. And so we were looking at different issues that the church did not focus on. And would it be that because they did not have the people in place to do these things as it relates to counseling and stress management? And I was talking to a friend, and she said, you know, we need to have these conversations. We need to really sit down and deal with mental health and all of these things. And because of my training also in mental health, I said, yes, I'm going after it. But so much things happen in between. And one day I decided to get the background set up and begin to go through my history and see people that will fit this evening's profile. Now, this is not profile with Ian Bowen. This is The Conversation with Stephanie Turnbull, because maybe you will reach Ian Bowen if he was alive, maybe next year or maybe 2025, but you're now in your own profile in The Conversation in 2021. I am so honored to have you. I have had a program called Testimony Time, where I would have persons testify, record, send in during the pandemic, and the testimonies really touch lives. But we are going to take it from a different point of view this evening as we bring a Christian young lady who has served God, who have been serving God, and who has continued to serve God even in rough times. They said tough times don't last, only tough people. And here is one in the room. Welcome, Mrs. Russell Lewin.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to turn over the talking to you in The Conversation, because sometimes in a conversation, one person do the talking and the other listen. And we say we are good conversationalists, right? So I am going to put you in the spotlight this evening. Tell us, who is Christine Russell before she became Lewin? Who is that girl?
Actually, you mentioned that you called me Michelle, so I'm actually Christine Michelle Russell Lewin, because Michelle is my middle name. Christine Russell Lewin is the seventh of eight children to Sybil and Ron and Earl Russell. I almost mentioned Ronald Lewin is my husband. Grown up in Effortville and in a city community in Clarendon, Jamaica, and have been through a lot and believe that God would have ordained my life to be here based on what my mother would have told me about my journey as a baby coming into this world. And so I am just happy to be alive, and every day I am grateful to be on top of my grave, as persons would say. So indeed, I am humbled to be in the presence of people. I love people, and I capitalize on the event. To everybody I meet, I try to get to know them because I believe that I'm meeting them or knowing them for a reason. So, and that is basically who I am in a nutshell. I am very purpose driven. I know my purpose, and I am humbled now because God would have been doing a lot of work in me and on me. And so I consider my life as a testimony in a nutshell.
Yes, God. So tell us, we know it took some journey before you reached CRL coaching service. Where did you get your early childhood education leading up to this? Just give us a brief as to your journey to this place you're at now.
Okay, so I was born in Clarendon, as I mentioned before, in a little community called Effortville. I attended Effortville Basic School. It was also called Auntie Retail because she was a very prominent person in the community who decided to operate a school until the Seventh Adventist Church decided to operate the school as she was a member. And so memory of my early childhood was very, very interesting there. I remember having a lot of porridge, especially bulgur porridge. And I remember the Fridays we had ice cream. And what stand out most for me at basic school was the particular morning when I got 50 cents to go to school and I cried. And I got a fine whopping from my sister because she said that I'm to learn to satisfy with what I have. And I really wanted a $1 because that was what I see my other friends used to buy ice cream. And so my 50 cents would not have given me the opportunity to get the ice cream, but I was told this is what, and I never forget that. This is what we have, and this is what you are to take. And she followed me to a part of the journey with the 50 cents and ensured that I would have put it in my pocket and went all the way to basic school.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So tell me, from transitioning from early childhood to high school, something memorable happened in high school. Tell us about that.
Ah, high school was a journey. My family had a major crisis or breakdown or trauma, I would say, in terms of violence, because I'm from a violence-prone community. And so there was a major rival with my brother and other persons in the community because my community is very volatile. And so that would have spiraled some childhood trauma. And so while at high school, I was very depressed. I was suicidal. But somehow a teacher, her name is Christine Lawrence Blair, she identified purpose in me. And one day she said to me, you know what, Christine, I don't like how you're looking. It doesn't seem to be the student that I know at all. I would like to take you home for a weekend. And I think for that, I don't know, it must have been God who have spoken to that teacher because she snapped me right in the nook of time. And that teacher, up to today, I talk about her. She's my favorite teacher. She's God sent. She took me from a life that was surrounded by violence, a life that I seen that there was no purpose for me to be alive. The trauma and the violence was just getting on top of my head, and I just wanted an escape. And thinking of an escape, not in a very good way, she grabbed me before the enemy took me, and she took me home into her own house. Well, received, and I was like, wow, this is something different from what I was used to. And I saw true Christian love demonstrated. I admire her relationship with her husband, just how she cared for me, just take me from school. And that would be the life transforming experience for me at high school, the most memorable one so far that I can remember.
Wow. You know what I like about this interview? This interview is being done fresh. This is not a cut and paste or a backtracking. We are sitting in this room for the first time with a fresh script tailored just for Mrs. Russell Lewin. And it is the first time I am hearing of the high school trauma, but I just know that something happened in high school that shifted her to who she is today. And for that, I am grateful to know that the same thing that you came out of, you are now prepared to help young children, young people who would have gone through trauma, post-traumatic stress disorders. You are now positioned to help them. Can you imagine? Your story is for somebody else's miracle. Why did you choose this current field? I can basically answer the question myself, but tell us, something else drove you to this.
I think I am in this field because of coincidence, I could say, but now that I am more mature spiritually, I say it is an act of God, and God already knew that this was what I should have been doing long before I choose to do it. Actually, I would have applied to secondary education to do teaching and also business studies, but somehow my transcript got lost. But being the determined person I am, I said, you know what, I am going to study regardless. So somebody told me of another institution that was offering counseling, and I said, all right, a degree is a degree, and I get more pay. So I just signed up for a degree. When I went into the class, the first class, I was asked by one of my lecturers, why are you here? I said, Miss, I'm here because I want more money and my salary. And she said, ma'am, let me tell you, you're at the wrong place. If this is why you're here, you're not in the right field. And I was like, really? Everybody studied to get some more money. But then she started to go into development and information about building you and coping with situations. And I realized that this class was helping me to deal with my own issues, my own baggages, my own family issues. And I gravitated towards the class and started to use the information to help me as an individual. And after that, I realized that this counseling thing is not so bad after all. Not with the intuition that I was going to be a counselor. I was just using it to help me now to deal with my own personal situation. But after doing that, everything opens up and persons just keep coming into me. And I've been told several times, I keep dodging and running away from it because I'm like, me not take on nobody problems. Me have my own problems of my own. But guess what? I could just run so much and no more. And here I am now wanting to help persons so much because of all the persons who God have sent into my life as destiny helpers to help me through my pain. And this is really what really pushed me now to that point to say, yes, I am ready to help persons to overcome their pain and live their best purpose.
Yes, God. So right in between, I want to drop family life. It was Christine Russell, and then suddenly I heard there was a wedding, and now you're Russell Lewin. Tell us about that journey from Russell to Lewin and with the children. Just give me all of that in one.
Oh, can I tell you, as a church girl, growing up in church, got saved at age 13. You were taught that fornication is sin, and to be honest, I got married because I did not want to have sex in church as a Christian. So that was the underlining. But that gentleman pursued me all along. I told him I'm not ready several times. I was looking for a rich and famous person, somebody with multiple languages and all these things, but that didn't fit. And so, somehow God just turned it around, and I realized his determination and his love for the Lord, and that pulled me towards him. And there we just decided that we are going to give it a chance. And we watched how God would have worked. There were times when we hit rock bottom, but I'm happy that we didn't give up. And so I can safely say this evening that I'm happily married to Ronald Lewin. And this year we celebrated 17 years of love and togetherness. And out of that 17 years, we have produced 3 children, 2 girls and 1 son. So God has indeed been an awesome God to me.
But there's a twin in the mix, so it's a twin boy and girl, right?
Definitely, Joel and Jerry.
Twin boy and girl, right? So I think they were the next set of twins born in the PCG after my Joel and Joanna. I think they were the next.
Oh, yes.
You took the button right there. All right. So you have gone to several colleges and you faced some difficulties in college. Could you share with us whether it was a financial difficulty? What happened during your college year that made it so challenging for you before you reached this point? What was it?
I think it was the transition of my Christian life and also being able to settle and adapt to what the tertiary institution would bring. Because coming from where I'm coming from, a volatile community, inner city, not many persons would have gone to tertiary institutions and come back to prepare you. But you having the ambition and wanting to grow and go, and also being a Christian from such a young age, and also being taught a particular way, I could say sheltered to some extent, and just being thrown out there like in the deep sea. Is either you sink or you swim. There I had to swim because I realized that my mother was my major support, and there were some disciplines and morals that she would have taught me, and I really wanted to help her to realize that, Mom, you have done all of this for me. It wasn't a walk in the park because I attended college very young. I just left high school, went straight into college. Wasn't even sure of what I wanted to do. I just signed up for something out of just wanting to get busy, and then I'll teach her again. And my teachers are always significant. Called me, that was my psychology teacher, called me and she said, "Come here, Christine, I see a teacher in you. Why are you doing this office administration degree?" And she encouraged me to sign up the next year. So I did an extra year at college because she redirected me to my dream and my path. And she said, "A teacher is in you, go and do teaching." And so that would have shifted me from doing office administration to teacher education. She would have guided me, molded me. But somewhere along the way, you have your own issues as a teenager and a young adult, and so you wanted to follow the crowd. You finally get away from church, you finally get away from family, and there you just wanted to just be free and be you. And so there was a tug of war inside of me because here I want to do good, but evil presents itself. I also wanted to get wild. I also wanted to get to know what the other side of life would be like. And so stepped out with friends, do things, but I was under conviction. Every move I make, it was as if somebody was just right there watching me. And one particular Sunday afternoon, I was in my dorm, with my friends. We were just there talking. We didn't have anything to eat because at college sometimes the money run out, so funds were very low. And they were saying, "Boy, we miss the Sunday dinner, you see." And then I looked through my window, 'cause where I was on campus, I could see the entrance to the back section of the college. And when I looked, that was my mother coming up the hill with a bag. And tears came to my eyes. And I was like, "Oh, Mama, get here." She didn't even call me. She didn't. And she brought Sunday dinner for all of us. And persons were like, "My God, how your mother knows that you're hungry?" And she said she was in church. She was sitting in church, and the Holy Spirit said to her, "Get bag packed, go to Money College now. Your daughter needs food." And she said she just quickly get home, get stuff, and head on a bus. And that was it. And that, for me, just tells me that God is still real. And no matter how far we step out of line, once there is coverage and there are persons who are in our corner, He will come through. We just have to be obedient. And that for me was profound. And my friends looked on me differently because I said, "You have a mother who really cares. Her mother is a Christian. How did God know to tell her that?" And they started looking at Christian from a different perspective now. So they were like watching me now to ensure that I don't step out of line. So the pressure came on even more at this time. But I would say it is good pressure. So at one point, there was a major incident that happened. Do you want to hear that one?
Yes, I'm
There
going
was a
there.
major incident that took place where I had to follow a group of girls another Sunday evening. Somehow Sunday evenings were just interesting in my life at college. And we were heading to Dunn's River. But when my friend came and told me that we had a Dunn's River trip, I was excited because, wanted to go to the beach on Sunday evening. I felt a little convicted because I used to being at church on a Sunday. And if it is not church Sunday night, it is not anything else, or it's a gospel concert. But anyways, I just decided to go. Upon my surprise, when I reached the transportation, there was a gentleman for each one of us who entered the vehicle. And I was like, okay. Anyway, I still went because I was really wanting to experience what all of this is about. But when I went to the gas station and we were getting gasoline, I don't know what happened. Instead of the gasoline goes into the tank of the vehicle, it came all on my clothes, all on me, because I was sitting at the door. I don't know if the person was gazing or what happened. I just don't remember what happened, but all I know that I was engulfed in gasoline. I was like, my God, how could I be so disobedient and naive? Leaving campus without telling anybody, leaving with friends. So for that entire evening, even while we were at the beach and everybody was having a good time, and the young man felt so awkward because that was just enough warning for me just to tell me, so you know what? Keep yourself quiet because somebody praying somewhere, and I just couldn't have the fun that everybody else was having. It was just not me, and I know that God just loved me too much, and I was handpicked from then. So
There's a call and a mark. What word of encouragement, before we go into the next segment, what word of encouragement do you have? Because one of the things why the conversation came out, we looked within the churches and realized that young professionals, young people, once they turn 18 or once they left high school, they left their church. They no longer, when they went to college, they didn't do church. It was either club, boys, men, name it. What word of encouragement do you have this evening to tell some young professional, whether they're in college or going into the work field, what word of encouragement do you have as it relates to staying with Jesus?
well, my word of encouragement is to keep focused, keep your eyes on God, because their education is just for a season. Everything is just for a season. And there is no true fulfillment in having all of that without living a life that is pleasing to God. And so a taste of the world is enough, but it will not take you into heaven. It will not take you to a place where God is going to be with you. And so if you're true to your calling and you're true to what you're all about, then it pays to be focused and to be obedient, because he does speak. After a while, though, if we forget and do not listen to his heed his call, then our conscience will be sworn. And so we will just do the same thing or the norm, just like everybody else, and feel the same good old way. But I just want to encourage youths and young adults to be focused, to remember the purpose in which God would have called them and where they're coming from, what was deposited in them from an early childhood, from primary age or even teen years, in terms of the call of God and what was invested in them from the word of God. And once they keep that to their heart, even though they will go to the edge, they will not tip over, because they will hang on to something that would be their inner strength and that will take them to the next level of the journey. And all experiences for a reason, just use it as a path, a tradition or transition to your next growth.
All right. So how do you feel when a young person at age 12, uh, 9, say to you as a counselor, I want to be baptized? Do you say wait until you're 16? What do you do? What do you tell
I,
them?
I encourage them to do that because I was happy that nobody told me to wait until I was older. Um, I believe that once persons get the understanding and the teaching from as early as possible, because once a person is able to detect right and wrong and they are ready, I believe that parents and well-wishers should support them and teach them and use this as a platform to push them to the next level in God. Because when you put off this passion and this calling that persons have from an early age, gradually they will lose out on where they want to go in God. And so I believe that somebody would have encouraged me, even though I didn't really understand much. But one thing I knew that night when I walked to the altar, I did not want to die and go to hell. For some reason, I understand what hell was. And then after getting the teaching, I understand what heaven is. And so that would have changed my focus somewhat. And so I would encourage parents, church members, and break the culture, disrupt the narrative of telling persons that they are too young and they don't understand. If they can understand to do wrong, they can understand to do right. And I believe that this is where the church now will have to shift the way how we do stuff. Encourage our young people to choose God early and choose him first, and to give your entire life to him. Because once you do that from an early age, is the foundation is already set. And so even though you might step out, once the foundation is there, other building can take place. And I endorse that. My two smallest children has just baptized in 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago.
How old are they?
They're 8 years old.
Oh. So you're the perfect candidate for this season. You see, I chose not to do a mock interview. I wanted it fresh off the block for it to feel so real. I know, yes, in media they do the pre-recording and the test and all of that, but I want it to be so real that people can understand. Here is a young lady married with 3 children. The oldest child is how old?
14 years old.
And she'd already baptized. How
Yes.
old? She was baptized what age?
I think she was baptized at 9.
At 9. And now the others now say yes. So this is not just a pastor children role, because she's not in the role of a pastor. She's the wife of a minister, right? Your husband is a minister, but they are ensuring that the children serve the Lord. Tell me some of the most difficult time you have in the church as a teenager, when you were not married, when they suspected you were dating, and even after you're married. Tell us some of the real difficult moments in that time with church people.
Most difficult moments. I had so many. Betrayal was one for me, was a big one, because I think persons would have judged me, and they did not get to know who I was. They probably had their preconceived idea of who they want me to be, but not knowing who I was. And so that can be detrimental to any young Christian growth. And if it had not been for the love of God and supportive parents, and I could say my mother, I would have packed up and probably leave the church a long time ago, because there were persons who, and because I used to just disrupt the narrative, because I believe that knowledge is power. And once I go out and I learn something, I embrace it. And so they would look on me a particular way and judge me because of my dressing, because we were very strict. We had some very strict rules. And I just did not see some of them as being necessary or important, or the rationale behind it. And I would ask a lot of questions in meetings, and persons would think I'm rude or I want to know too much. And I think persons started seeing me as a little bit annoyed because of my level of intuition and wanting to get clarity and get to know. And so that came off the wrong way. At one point, I decided that I'm done with church. And so in saying I'm done with church, I would have not attending services at my regular church. I would just probably, what you'd call, church hopping. I went church hopping especially when I was at college. I just started visiting other churches, all different denominations, just to see what they were all about, and just to flex, because I was just done with my local church, because the persons there didn't see me for who I am, and they thought that I was backslidden, or they thought that I am following bad company, and the whole level of judgment persons, and thinking that they are sinning. And even while dating too, we came under big backlash when we were given 3 months suspension for dating, with an allegation that we were being intimate. And I was like, seriously? No, that me get this, me can't just go legal. But I held on to my integrity and said, you know what? I am not even going to allow church people or anybody to push me into a place or a state where I am not ready to go. And my husband really would have helped me a whole lot, because I would say I was the weaker vessel. And I was saying, look here, I'm giving me 3 months and I perfect time this. But he held on to the call of God and the love for God. And he says, no, no, no. Make them go and do what them I do and talk what them I talk. And I watched him, how he embraced the people. He loved them in spite of. And for me, I was not like that. I was bitter. I was angry. I had malice. I had unforgiveness in my heart. There were times when I went to church and I was sitting at the back and just, but I watched him, even when he was just there singing and all that, he was embracing people same way. And I was like, no, man, maybe no God in me or something. But then I realized that the level of maturity that it calls for, I was not at that time. I was not there. And so that would have taught me a whole lot, because the people couldn't take me to where they have not been. And so I think I was a little too knowledgeable and had a little bit more exposure and experience, because every opportunity I get to go out and to go places and to learn and to ask questions, I would capitalize on it. And I realized that with that wealth of knowledge coming back to them, I think I probably came off a little bit intimidating, and that would have spilled a little rebellion, probably would have shown up to some extent, because maybe I was walking with a chip on my shoulder. That could be also it looking back now. But in all, all those experiences, though they were really challenging, and I felt like if God would have showed up at that time, I'm happy he didn't. I would not have seen his face because of the level of controversy that was taking place in my head, most importantly, and especially with the family and with the church. And it was like a whole emotional turmoil. I wanting to just leave this church guy and just go do the world and leave church because everybody was calling my name and saying stuff. I was a hot topic in church. And it really rubbed me the wrong way because I realized that the persons in church focus were wrong. But I have learned that all of these things were a part of my journey. And so I was now able to get the help to go back and help my church to teachings and different conversations, just to help them to embrace youth, because these things can really turn off young people and allow them not to see church as a safe space. And this is really, really important to one's spiritual growth and maturity.
I am glad for that because currently I have shifted my focus somewhat from women's ministry and all the regular church duties. And I focus now on young people and the next generation, ensuring that we begin to put things in place to accommodate them. If we don't, then we're going to lose another generation because we'd have lost a generation that are now in their 30s because within the last 20 years, the rules were so rigid and we pushed a lot of people away. They have gone to some other denominations. They have moved away totally from the full gospel because of the abuse or the mental trauma that they would have gotten from the pulpit. From the pulpit, person would have been so demotivated. But something I realized with you, you had this tenacity because I would have seen you mostly at our national camp. And I noticed that you stood out. We might never had the conversation, but that's one of the reasons why I pulled you out of the pack, because there was something about you that was different. You always seemed to be ahead of your peer or the culture based on just hanging around you when I was on campus. But one thing I know is that the knowledge that you got, you were coming back to help, but persons could not receive the help. And I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like when you have gotten this knowledge, you have the passion, and all you really want to do is to help, but sometimes it's not interpreted like that. But you were able to submit, you were able to stay because you now have a master's in your field, and many persons after they get their masters, they now gone to the church up the road with all the degree people, and you know the local church become too local, but God wants to use you. What role do you play currently in the local church where you serve?
Well, at my local church, I currently serve as a church counselor. Also, I'm assisting the praise leader. And I also do Bible studies. I assist my pastor in Bible studies at different scheduling for the most part. So, yes, and I am on the itinerary to share sometimes at least once per month. So, and I do seminars and stuff depending on the calendar of events.
But
But I'm mostly the church counselor.
tell me, why didn't you answer a call? Why did you not become a preacher? Because all our life we watched you in worship. At one time I saw you moving in the prophetic. I saw you as a young child speaking what you heard God say. I almost thought you would have enrolled and become a pastor or evangelist. How are you using up that part of you?
I am a firm believer in being dynamic and also multifaceted. And so for every individuals, there are skills that are important to just about all aspects of life. And whilst I am not a pastor in the sense, I do share the word, but I believe that there are persons who I am called to in my own unique way. and also based on my skill set and training. And I have not ruled out going into a deeper level in terms of theological studies. But however, I still believe that I am equipped with the requisite knowledge to help with that, to shape that other area that has been crippled for many years, because you have a lot of persons who have the theological knowledge, but the other areas in terms of the psychology and the other areas that are missing. So there is a blend that is always needed, and I believe in holistic development. And so I have gotten the word from as early as I can remember, every Sunday evening, going to under a mango tree with a to Sunbeam Club. So I've been taught the Bible from as early as I can remember, and so the word has been in inside of me. And so I believe that with the additional knowledge that I would have gotten, I decided that I'm going to twin all of them to bring out this unique me that I am, and reach persons within my circle, because sometimes you have to step out from the traditional to reach persons who are from the non-traditional, because I believe that God is coming back for just about everybody. And so you have to know, be able to reach your niche and who is he sending you to in your season. And hence, I would still do what he has called me to do in that field, but I think there's a greater call to reach persons through counseling and coaching, because of the amount of hurt and pain that persons are feeling. And my sister as a minister always said the church is a hospital. And for somehow I am always led to persons who are broken. And even when I minister in the prophetic, I always get word for persons who are broken or would have been to wounded situations or series of pain. And I realize that after the feel good moment of the preaching, there needs to be some amount of healing. And that time, persons will need someone who will help them, a destiny helper, someone who will help them to bring about that total healing, because it would have happened to me. And from my story, I am now able to reach others for God's glory.
Hallelujah. Yes, the word holistic was in my tongue because that's the thing that God has brought me into. So as I show up in a nation based on my mission assignment, I am able to function in the different giftings. They would have told me that I was addicted to studying, but I believe God wanted me to be prepared. So it depends whichever place I went, I was able to help the person in that field. However, I am encouraging pastors to step out of the box, not just to get a degree to be called doctor, reverend, bishop, so and so for the cameras, but to prepare themselves to really reach people from a holistic point of view. Because after the hype, there's a real reality of the counseling. So we do the altar call and we got the word of knowledge that they are going through this situation, but then they come to the altar. What about the follow-up? And so follow-up ministry, even as we learned that in Evangelism Explosion at Caribbean Pentecostal College, you need to follow up because there's a window. And if you miss that window, then the enemy come and would have steal that seed. And so I'm encouraging people, even now, as we're about to just wrap up with the question on her current coaching business or ministry, that we step out of the box. Here is somebody who stepped out of the box. Many of you will be watching this live. You would have seen this young lady growing up in the Pentecostal Church of God. We will not forget that. Grew up in the Pentecostal Church of God, Jamaica. We both grew up, one at Effortsville and one at Parry Road Faith Temple. So we are two Pentecostal seed. We came from that soil, but we want to encourage people that you don't have to stay in the condition. Jesus called educators, he called lawyers, he called persons who are in business, he called tax collectors, he also called fishermen. So he had a variety because the doctor dealt with the physical, right? And so Jesus was the one who dealt with the emotional needs of others. He was moved with compassion because of what the people was going through. So in the conversation tonight, we would have heard the passion coming out, that it's not just because of the money now, but the passion to reach those who are wounded. David found himself with some people who are distressed, depressed. Can you imagine? 400 distressed men, 400 people showed up in his camp that were distressed, depressed, and in debt. So our last question before we close this evening conversation, I want you to just tell us about the coaching. We know you have gone into that. We know you have gotten your training, but what are you currently doing, and how can you reach others, and how can you be reached via contact information? Tell us.
Okay. So currently, I am operating as a counseling and I'm consulting psychologist and also a life coach and a parent mentor, having received training in life coaching and also Wire to Win DNA coaching, where I help persons with one-on-one who are having challenges, and also mentorship, because what would have helped me also is to be mentored by someone who would have walked the walk and talked the talk and wanting to help me up the hill. And so mentorship is very, very important. So I'm doing mentorship also as a part of the package. And of course, counseling, individual counseling, because as you rightly mentioned, after the person have accepted the call and responded, they are coming from a life where they have been hurt, baggages, and they will now need additional help. And you really cannot take somebody to a place where you have not been and give somebody what you don't have. And so I realized that the turnover or the data or the statistics would have shown that many persons would have gotten saved. But where are they now? For some reason, the hurt and the pain and persons not understanding and receiving them in church would have contributed to that pain. And so they would just go back to the place of sin and would have lost out on a lot of souls. And I also find out that you have some persons who are in church who are also on their way to hell because of hurt and past issues and would have not fully gotten the healing, and so unforgiveness and bitterness would have caused them not to be at the place where they ought to be. And so counseling is very, very important, along coupled with deliverance. And I can safely say that would have been a place where would I have been, and because I would have been there getting the help or have gotten the help, I am now at a position with the training and the skill set coupled with the experience. I am now ready to give back and to help the body of Christ, who I believe for such a time as this need this so that they can go to their next level. I believe that there are souls that are waiting on us. And so if we can equip ourselves and prepare ourselves to go and reach them, build our confidence, deal with our past baggages, and be ready with the right information at the right season, then we will capitalize on that. And so CRL coaching and counseling services were birthed out of this to transform, to educate, and to empower lives to be the better person. Because a lot of persons will identify that they are lacking this area, but what is it that you're doing to change that? And so having assessed all of that and see what is happening, especially in the body of Christ, this new desire and this new dimension came out. And so I can be reached at trlcoachingservices@gmail.com, and also my local telephone number through WhatsApp 876-871-5357, or you can check me out on Facebook, Christine Russell Lewin, or on Instagram at CRL Nuggets to Inspire, where I do daily nuggets to inspire persons to keep going with the ultimate tool that God is the source, because we cannot go anywhere without him, no matter our status or our qualification. It is just mere a coverage, because the real foundation is our root and our faith in God. So here I am, just being a vessel. I think I have run like Jonah for many years, and now I have yielded the call and I'm taking my step to climb, because I believe that there is greatness in me. And so God wants me to pull out greatness that are in other persons who I will come in contact with. And so I'll do the one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, I also do live events where I speak on group platforms. I also do public speaking to different groups or presentations on the various topics as it relates to anything relating to psychology or mental health or holistic development, because that is my field of study. And I am just preparing myself for where God is taking me, because I believe coming 2022, greater things are ahead.
All right. I think the next time we see Christine Russell Lewin, it would have been my honor to now say Dr. Russell Lewin, doctor in psychology, counseling psychology. I see that coming out on the screen at me. She's going all the way, all the way. And so Pentecostal Church of God, Jamaica, you have produced a royal seed by the early foundation that was given to her. And I encourage us along to continue to look out for those, because greatness is lying on the inside of our young people. And we are praying that those who have walked away because of church hurt and different things, that they will find themselves back in God, because that's the best place to be. What is the best way to bring a close to this interview, this conversation with Mrs. Russell Lewin, than to know that she has given of her time to serve those who need someone to listen to them, a shoulder to cry on. That's what God is calling the church to. That's the real church at this time, to be there, outreach, come out from the four wall and use the different platforms and reach people. Get out from your comfort zone. It's time to reach the lost at any cost. These are ministry, and when you can reach their emotion, you can get to all of their soul, because you know that the body is body, soul, and spirit. And you know that in that soul is the will, the intellect, and the emotion. And a wounded soul is a dangerous soul without guidance. And so I want to say thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for sitting and listening and making use of the counseling service that Mrs. Russell Lewin is offering to Jamaica and those who she will see via the World Wide Web. I say thanks again, Mrs. Russell Lewin, and God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you too.